So we're going to go through the Passover. We're going to show that we should keep this feast. This is the best time of year for all of Israel, all of the Most High's people. This feast is taught not only in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament as well. We're told to keep this. So before Shabar, before he gets, he's going to cover the plagues, right?
Mm-hmm. Just touch on
all right. I'm going to bring out a few things. Let's open up to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6. No, Deuteronomy 16. Deuteronomy 16. See, Azar, you can go ahead and you can read from there. Start at verse 1.
Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto Yahweh thy mighty one. For in the month of Abib, Yahweh thy mighty one brought thee forth out of Egypt by night.
Okay, this is the month of Abib. This is the first month of the year. The first month of the year is not January. That's a Roman month. That's on the Roman calendar. The Hebrew calendar is different. It's a lunar calendar. All right, so this is the first month of the year. And it's called the month of Abib because that's when the green ears, the fresh green ears of barley are seen. And they can be spotted. They've been spotted in the land of Israel right now in the surrounding regions. That's what the word Abib means. It means fresh ear of barley. Some say green ears because that's how it looks when it's coming up. All right, so we're in the month of Abib right now. And it says, the Most High brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. And it's this night, thousands of years ago, the Most High brought us out of the land of Egypt. This night, right here. All right, read on.
Verse 2. Thou shalt therefore sacrifice the Passover unto Yahweh thy mighty one, of the flock and the herd, in the place which Yahweh shall choose to place his name there. Thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. For thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that thou mayest remember the day when thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of thy life.
That's right. We're supposed to remember that day all the days of our life. We're not supposed to forget it. This is what's written. And the Most High doesn't change his mind. All right, go ahead.
And there shall be no leavened bread seen with thee in all thy coasts 7 days. Neither shall there anything of the flesh which thou sacrificest on the first day at even remain all night until the morning.
Okay, so by now, back in history, the Passover lamb was it had already been sacrificed. By the time sunset came, meant we're on the 15th day of Abib. The lamb was already sacrificed, and then they ate the lamb that evening, right at this time, right now. On the 14th day, which is the Passover. See, the Passover ended when the sun went down today. All right, right now we're on the 15th day. This is unleavened bread. And this is when we eat the Passover lamb. All right, go ahead.
Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates, which Yahweh thy mighty one giveth thee. But at the place which Yahweh thy mighty one shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt.
See? So like I said, on the 14th day, as the sun begins to descend, in some places it's transferred between the two evenings in the original Hebrew. It means when the sun starts to descend towards the horizon, that's when they were roasting the Passover lambs. Those things take a long time to cook. All right, go ahead.
And thou shalt roast and eat it in the place which Yahweh thy mighty one shall choose. And thou shalt turn in the morning and go into thy tents. 6 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to Yahweh thy mighty one. Thou shalt do no work therein.
Okay, so we're not allowed to sacrifice the Passover just anywhere. It has to be the place that the Most High chooses. That place was amongst Israel when we sojourned in the wilderness with the prophet Moshe. They had the tent of meeting. They set up the tabernacle. They were allowed to sacrifice there. Everyone was to gather there. Afterwards, when the temple was built, we were supposed to sacrifice at the temple. That was the place the Most High you chose. We are not allowed to sacrifice the Passover lamb anywhere. We cannot go set up a lamb out there, slaughter it, and say that we're keeping the Passover. Plus, we also know that the Messiah was our Passover, because the Passover lamb points to him. But I have more on that in just a minute. Okay, let's go drop down to verse 14.
And thou shalt rejoice in thy feast, thou and thy son, and thy daughter, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite, the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, that are within thy gates.
Okay? Everybody is supposed to rejoice at the feast of the Most High. And there's other scriptures that talk about wine is made for rejoicing. Wine helps people to rejoice. It's drunkenness that's condemned. You know, we're not to be drunkards. Drunkards will not be allowed in the kingdom. So let's get some wine. Yes, you can drink and read the scriptures at the same time. You should not be drunk. You should not be drunk reading the scriptures. You shouldn't be drunk at all. And I just want to reiterate, like before, we're not keeping the Passover according to the law. If you notice, at every captivity, when we came out of Egypt, we kept the Passover. We came out of Babylon, we got the priesthood in order, we kept the Passover. And the temple was built, we kept the Passover according to the law. When they were in Babylon, they didn't keep the Passover according to the law. They might have commemorated it, just like Tobit did in the Apocrypha, in the book of Tobit. He kept Pentecost, but they were in the Assyrian captivity. But it said, matter of fact, let's just get that right quick. Tobit chapter 2. Yeah, we read from the Apocrypha. These scriptures are part of the scriptures. The original 1611 King James Bible had it included the Apocrypha. This gives us a lot of important history. Also some wise teachings. Even before the 1611 King James, you had the Septuagint. This book was included in our volume of scriptures before the Messiah was even born. And you had the Geneva Bible, the Tyndale Bible. Those came long before the 1611 King James. They had the Apocrypha in it. Okay. I'll read this right quick. This Tobit chapter 2. This is just an example. It says, now when I was come home again to my wife, this is verse 1. When I was come home again to my wife Anna was restored unto me, and my son Tobias in the feast of Pentecost, which is the holy feast of the 7 weeks. There was a good dinner prepared me, in which I sat down to eat. And when I saw abundance of meat, I said to my son, go and bring what poor man soever thou shalt find out of our brethren, who is mindful of Yahweh. And lo, I tarry for thee. Okay, so we can follow the example of Tobit. You know, because at the Feast of Pentecost, you're told to go to the temple, just like in Passover. But they were in the Assyrian captivity. They were exiled from the land. But he had a nice dinner prepared for him. And he said, go and invite your brothers who are mindful of the Most High. And that's what we do. That's how we commemorate the feast when we're outside the land and the kingdom isn't set up. Okay, let's go on over to Luke. Turn over to the book of Luke. Luke chapter 22. Start reading at verse 15.
Luke chapter 22, verse 15.
Go ahead.
And he said unto them, with desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I say unto you, I will not any more eat thereof until it be fulfilled in the kingdom of Yahweh.
Did you hear that? The Messiah said he's going to eat the Passover in the kingdom. He's going to eat it again. And we plan on eating it with him. Alright? So right now we're kind of rehearsing these things. We're staying in tune with the scriptures and with the customs of our people. And we look forward to keeping the Passover and eating the Passover with the Messiah. That means the Messiah is he's actually going to eat a lamb. He's going to eat the Passover in the kingdom. Even though he is our Passover, he's our spiritual Passover lamb. But he's going to fulfill this law in the kingdom. And we plan on doing that with him. And let's get another example. Go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 5. We're told to do these things. Sometimes some people don't teach that we should be doing them. They teach that we should keep other days that are not written in these scriptures. But we're gonna what did Yeshua say in Matthew chapter 4 verse 4? Yeshua quoted the law. He quoted Deuteronomy 8 verse 3 and said, "Man shall live by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Most High." The Most High spoke in the law and the prophets. You can see it. It says, "Thus saith Yahweh," or like in your King James, it says, "Thus saith the Lord." All right, that's when he's speaking. And you're supposed to do what he says do. Live by every word, just like the Messiah did. You live by every word. Okay, 1 Corinthians chapter 5. Start reading verse 7.
Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Messiah our Passover is sacrificed for us.
Okay, notice what he's telling you. Shaul, or Paul, he's speaking spiritually about the law. He said, purge out that leaven. See, the leaven represents sin. And that's why the children of Israel, when we left out of Egypt, we left in haste. So they didn't have time to knead the dough so it will become leaven. Because they had to leave in haste. But also they were leaving behind sin. Because Egypt was full of sin. Israel was full of sin as well. And that's why he had to spend 40 years. Moshe spent 40 years teaching the children of Israel how to live righteously. Alright, so we know, and Shaul says, purge out the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened, meaning you are without sin. When you come under the Messiah's sacrifice, you have a clean slate. You're without sin. But then you're told not to sin anymore. And sin is the transgression of Yahweh's law. It says, because even Messiah, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Read verse 8.
Therefore let us keep the feast.
Read that again.
Verse 8. Therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth.
That's right. Shaul said, let us keep the feast. Okay? That's significant right there. Why aren't people teaching this? Let us keep the feast. But they want you to keep every other day that's not written in these scriptures. Alright? And we can go into a whole lesson on that. But we're covering the Passover right now. It's just, just reaffirming that we're supposed to keep the feast. Alright? Read on.
Verse 9. I wrote unto you in an epistle not to accompany fornicators.
Okay? We're not to accompany with fornicators. Go ahead.
Yet not altogether with the fornicators of this world, or with the covetous, or extortioners, or with idolaters, for then must ye needs go out of the world.
Go ahead.
But now I have written unto you not to keep company, if any man that is called a brother be a fornicator, or covetous, or an idolater, or a railer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner. With such a one, know not to eat.
Okay? And that's significant. We need to take note of that. Alright? Because there's a lot of us are messed up right now. We have a lot of people who are messed up. And he's talking about brothers. Alright? At the same time, we're not to turn our backs on them. We're to be there for them, but we're to rebuke them sternly. And if they don't want to stop doing what they're doing, we're not to keep company with them. Don't even eat with them. You know? So there's some people are not worthy of coming and keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread amongst us. Because they didn't want to purge out that old leaven. All right? They don't want to become a new lump. So they're not worthy. And the Most High, He has a way of keeping the clean and the unclean separated. All right? But there's some brothers and sisters who are sincere and would want to be here amongst us and can't. You know? Or sometimes people go through problems and they have no control over it. But, and see, the Passover is a solemn assembly. It's a solemn occasion. We're told it was never kept in a big auditorium. We were told to do it in our homes. You know, and the way it was done according to history is, even according to scripture, you have however many people that lamb could support, that's who you would invite over. And it tells you, remember, every man go to his tent. Now they did sacrifice a lot of lambs at the temple, you know, but then you take your lamb and you go back to your tent. And during the time that the Messiah walked the earth, you had tents and stuff all filled. Jerusalem was filled with tents all over. And I imagine that it'll be the same way in the kingdom. All right. What verse was that?
That was verse 11.
Okay. Going down to verse 13. No, just read on through.
Verse 12, for what have I to do to judge them also that are without? Do not yet ye judge them that are within?
Go ahead.
But them that are without Yahweh judgeth. Therefore put away from among yourselves that wicked person.
Okay. So we have to take heed in that. You know, if we know somebody's wicked, don't have fellowship with them. After you've warned them and done what you can do, and they don't want to repent, don't have fellowship with them. Don't even eat with them. All right, and that's all I have for that part. I might chime in a little bit in a few minutes. But Shabar, he's going to go through the plagues, and he's going to touch on some things concerning history and what this stuff really means. I'll read.
Okay, just briefly just going to do, most people have heard the accounts of the different plagues. And I wanted to look at it from a different perspective. And let's look at the first plague real quick, the water turning to blood. This is in Egypt. Exodus 7:14.
Exodus chapter 7, verse 14. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refuses to let the people go. Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out unto the water, and thou shalt stand by the river's brink against he come. And the rod which was turned to a serpent shalt thou take in thine hand. And thou shalt say unto him, Yahweh, Elohim of the Hebrews, have sent me unto thee, saying, Let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And behold, hitherto thou wouldest not hear. Thus saith Yahweh, In this thou shalt know that I am Yahweh. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand, upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. And the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink of the water of the river. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying to Aaron, Take thy rod, and stretch out thine hand upon the waters of Egypt, upon their streams, upon their rivers, and upon their ponds, and upon all their pools of water, that they may become blood, and that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood and in vessels of stone. And Moshe and Aaron did so, as Yahweh commanded, and he lifted up the rod, and smote the waters that were in the river, in the sight of Pharaoh, and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened, neither did he hearken unto them, as Yahweh had said. And Pharaoh turned and went into his house, neither did he set his heart to this also. Read on.
Okay, no, that's good. Now, we all know about the last plague being what the Passover was, the blood on the doorpost, and we tie that with Yeshua. But now I'm going to show you something interesting in this first plague. Let's go to John 2, 1 through 11. Now this is the first miracle that's recorded by Yeshua. Now just the first plague that was recorded was water turning into blood. Let's look at what the first miracle is.
And that's interesting. So Yachanan chapter 2, verse 1.
Yeah.
Yachanan 2, verse 1. And the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee. And the mother of Yeshua was there. And both Yeshua was called and his disciples to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Yeshua saith unto him, They have no wine. Yeshua saith unto her, Woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. His mother saith unto the servants, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Yahudim, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. Yeshua saith unto them, Fill the water pots with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And he saith unto them, Draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bare it. When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and he knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and saith unto him, Every man at the beginning doeth set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse, but thou hast kept the good wine until now. This beginning of miracles did Yeshua in Cana of Galilee, and manifested forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him.
That was very interesting to me. You know, the water was turned to blood, but now the water is turned to wine. And wine, Paul tells Timothy, to get a little wine for your stomach's sake. Like you were saying earlier, there's nothing wrong with wine. It's the drunkenness that's the problem. And also, there's a miracle in here where, you know, the plague, the fish died. There's also a miracle where the fishermen catch all these fish because of Yeshua. You know,
That's right.
I just thought that was very interesting, and this ties in the water, blood to the water, to the wine. You know,
It seems like you had the first miracle done that the Most High did through Moshe, turning those waters into blood. Then you had the first miracle that Yeshua did, which was from the power of the Most High. And all these things led up to the Passover.
Right, exactly. So now, I'm just going to kind of go through some of them real fast. The frogs was the second plague. Okay, we don't have to read. Most people know that the frogs was the second plague, correct? But frogs. Let's go to Revelation 16:13. So what frogs kind of symbolizes. You know, frogs is we're not supposed to eat frogs. It's unclean.
Right.
That's unclean
Yes.
meat. But then also it has a spiritual Revelation 16:13.
Frogs are unclean, people. Do not eat frogs.
And so, you know, and my people are from New Orleans, and so back in the day before I knew, I had frog legs and all that stuff. You know. Yeah. Okay.
Revelation 16 verse
13.
13. Okay. And he saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, which makes sense. The unclean spirits looking like frogs. And out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth, and of the whole world, to gather them to battle of that great day of Yahweh Almighty.
Okay, that's neat. So see, frogs symbolize unclean spirits, and then that was a miracle that Yeshua did in Luke 4:31. He's dealing with the unclean spirits.
Yeah, just
You know,
just a side note.
Yeah.
You would never hear of anything an unclean spirit looking like a lamb.
right?
You know, because those are clean animals.
Right. You know, okay. Then next it was lice. Then the next ones didn't affect the Israelites. The flies, the disease of livestock, boils, all of those. He said, you know, the Most High said, you know, I'm going to sever the land of Goshen, or so that the Israelites won't be affected by these. But this one was interesting. Hail and thunder. Hail and thunder. Let's go to Exodus 9:13. There's something I found interesting in this one. That it was a little different. And I'm sure the main verse I wanted. You can stop at 21, 13 through 21.
Okay. Exodus 9, verse 13. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Rise up early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh, and say unto him, Thus saith Yahweh, Elohim of the Hebrews, Let my people go, that they may serve me. For I will at this time send all my plagues upon thine heart, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, that thou mayest know that there is none like me in all the earth. For now I will stretch out my hand, that I may smite thee and thy people with pestilence, and thou shalt be cut off from the earth. And in very deed, for this cause have I raised thee up, for to show in thee my power, and that my name may be declared throughout all the earth. As yet exaltest thou thyself against my people, that thou wilt not let them go? Behold, tomorrow about this time I will cause it to rain a very grievous hail, such as had not been in Egypt since the foundation thereof, even until now. Send thereof now, and gather thy cattle, and all that thou hast in the field. For upon every man and beast which shall be found in the field, and shall not be brought home, the hail shall come down upon them, and they shall die.
And this next verse is a key verse that stuck out to me, verse 20.
He that feared the word of Yahweh among the servants of Pharaoh made his servants and his cattle flee into the houses. And he that regarded not the word of Yahweh left his servants and his cattle in the field.
So see, this was the first plague that some of the Egyptians could be spared. If the servants listened to the word of the Most High, they could be spared just like the Israelites.
Yep.
So that jumped out at me then.
And some of those Egyptians did listen and left out with the Israelites.
Because they came out as a mixed multitude. You know? So then the next is locusts. And darkness didn't affect the Israelites. And then we already kind of read about the firstborn son. That's where we're going to, the last one, plague. And one thing that's important about the last one, the Passover, if the people were not obedient and putting the doorpost, the blood on that doorpost, they would have been spared.
Right.
And that's something that we need to understand, because, you know, some people say, oh, I believe, but no, are you obedient?
Right.
You have to be obedient and do what he instructs you to do in order to fall under that protective cover.
Yeah. This is not a game.
You know.
Some people just want to actually claim the fame and say, I'm an Israelite, or I'm a Jew, but not do what you're supposed to do. Or they say, I'm a follower of the Messiah, but they're not walking as he walked. They're doing their own thing. Messiah was a Torah observant Jew. He wasn't a Pharisee or didn't follow the traditions of the Pharisees, which opposed the law of the Most High. We can show where he actually followed some traditions, but they weren't wicked traditions. But no, I just wanted to make that point.
But basically, I just wanted to just briefly touch on some of those plays and some of the things that stuck out to me in that. So that's all I have for this.
Another thing that's interesting is when Pharaoh's the firstborn son of Egypt was taken, and before Israel was delivered, and instead of, and Egypt represents sin and bondage, it represents hardship. But then in the end, just to follow along with what you were talking about, the Most High's firstborn son. Because in here he says, Israel is my firstborn. And people need to understand what it means to be called the firstborn. You know, first in rank and order. You know, because the firstborn son, he gets a double portion of all the inheritance. You know, Yeshua was spiritually the son of the Most High. And he's a top-ranking man. He's, like the scripture says, the firstborn of many brothers. He's our brother. All right, and he received the top rank, and therefore he's the firstborn. But my point is, the Most High, he took Pharaoh's firstborn and took the Egyptians' firstborn. They represented sin. But then later on, he gave up, the Most High gave up his firstborn in order that everyone could live. All right, see, there's a spiritual connection with all this. But and that's interesting how you tie those in. I never thought about that, you know. And so let's continue on. We're going to close this out with Exodus chapter 12, and we'll have the we're going to commemorate what our forefathers did by eating the lamb and unleavened bread. Exodus 12. You know, real quick before, just read down to. Let's start at verse 1. Exodus 12, verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
All right, remember I spoke on that earlier. It's this Passover time. If anyone tells you, prove to me that this time of year is the beginning of the new year. Huh? Exodus 12, what? Verse 2. See? New Year's, and see, that's why we don't celebrate New Year's. The Roman New Year, January 1st. All one has to do is do a little research, and you'll find out that the pagan Romans celebrated the god Janus. Okay? That is a pagan celebration. That's why we don't participate in the Roman New Year of January 1st. If you're a servant of the Most High, this is your New Year right here. It's right there in the book.
You know what's interesting? Even the months and the names now, September, that's 7. Yeah. October is 8. Yeah. November is 9. December, this is 10. Mm-hmm. You know, that even in those months that we're using now, with these wrong things, the numbers are kind of still embedded in there.
Yeah, because all wisdom came from the Most High. This stuff was ordained in the beginning. And so with the... Satan is the best counterfeiter in the world. Satan will take something that the Most High gave us and counterfeit it. You know, Satan takes the Most High's feast. Now, I did a lesson a while back on Hanukkah. Satan will take Hanukkah and replace that with Christmas. I don't see Christmas in here. Right, yeah. No offense to those who celebrate Christmas. I just can't find the command to keep Christmas or why we should be doing it. You know, so we stick to what's written, regardless of ridicule or anything else. Okay, so that read verse 3.
Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb.
Okay, just like we mentioned earlier, that's how it was kept. The Passover was not a big assembly, because there's some congregations who they put on a big production, you have an auditorium full of people for their, they call it the Passover celebration, when really it's unleavened bread. Passover is the day that the lambs were killed. Unleavened bread is the day that the lambs were eaten, and it was done in the evening times. All right, but it's a solemn assembly that you get a group of people in a household and you share a lamb. All right, go ahead.
Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
Okay, now in the Hebrew, when you look that up, and the word doesn't come to my mind now, there's actually a phrase for that word translated evening. It's a phrase which means between the two evenings. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper doorposts of the houses, wherein they shall eat it.
Okay, I just want to point out that during this point in history, the Israelites were commanded to do this when they were in Egypt. This isn't a permanent statute here, so we don't have to put the blood of a lamb on our doorposts. This was only done at that point in history. There's some people that told me, I'm putting the blood. I'm like, you need to calm down and don't. And they're getting lambs and sacrificing it. We're not supposed to do that at this point in time. Go ahead.
And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it.
Okay, and so they shall eat the flesh that night. All right, and we roast it with fire, and then with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs. That's the command right there. Read on.
Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire, his head with his legs, and with the pertness thereof.
Okay, so they roasted the whole lamb whole. We're told not to, don't sodden it, don't boil it. All right, do not eat it raw, but roast it. Go ahead.
And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire.
Okay. Read on.
And thus shall ye eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover.
All right, and that's another statute there that was it was for that point in history. Why eat it with your loins girded and your shoes on your feet and staff in your hand? Because you're getting ready to get up out of Egypt. All right, staff. When you have a staff, that's for traveling. Loins girded up. You know what I mean? You have your a waistband and to keep your clothing on. It means you're ready to move. All right, your shoes on your feet, because a lot of times we wore sandals or we take our shoes off in our homes. You know, we still do that. But when you have your shoes on your feet, it's time to go. All right, but now even when the children of Israel entered into Egypt, they did not have to keep doing this. That's the point that I'm bringing out. Go ahead.
For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the mighty ones of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am Yahweh. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you.
And this leads us back to that Messiah sacrifice, you know. And when he told us to drink the wine, he said, this is the blood that was spilled, you know, for you. And we partakers of that wine. You know, we don't drink, he wasn't telling us to drink blood. We have to remember to understand the law on a spiritual level like those men did, like Paul and the Messiah. They knew the law so well, they began to understand the spirituality behind it instead of just going through the motions. which we're still supposed to keep the letter of the law, but learn the spirituality of it. Learn what he's teaching us. Okay? So, what verse are you on?
The end of verse 13.
Okay, read on.
When I smite the land of Egypt. And this day shall be unto you for memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever.
You keep it a feast by ordinance just temporarily?
Forever.
What does forever mean?
Always.
Always. Always. Is the Most High a liar? No. Is man a liar? Yes. Alright, so we got to stick to what the book says. That means over here you can't come back and say, don't keep the feast. I can't find anywhere where it tells us don't keep the feast. Didn't we just read what Paul said, let us keep the feast? Alright, why isn't this being done throughout in this world?
Not only that, like you said, they're substituting it for pagan stuff. It's not like you just say, okay, let's don't keep any feast. Let's just do some. They're focusing on, no, let's keep these days. These.
Yeah. Revelation 12:9 says Satan deceives the whole world. There's a lot of deceived people out here. All right. There's only a remnant that's going to make it. There's only a remnant that the Most High is called to get this truth. You notice we're not in a big auditorium with thousands of dollars. I mean, millions of dollars. We don't have all kinds of people clapping. I guarantee you, you put any one of those men up against us. Put them up against me and him. Azari, from the youngest brother amongst us to the oldest. We'll shut him down. And it's not us shutting him down. It's going to be his words. All right? But we don't have lots of followers. Because there's only a remnant. Doesn't the law tell you don't follow the masses into doing evil?
Right, yeah.
All right? So numbers mean nothing. Didn't, Samson, what did he do? He killed 1,000 men with the jawbone of an ass. Little David killed the giant Philistine. See how the stuff works, and there's many other examples you can see. Numbers.
Gideon's army.
Yeah, that's right. Numbers mean nothing. All right, so he said do it forever. All right, even though we're not in the, so now let's commemorate what our forefathers did by eating the lamb and the bitter herbs with haste. And make sure you eat the, I don't know how hot this is, but make sure you eat everything. That stuff all means something. That bitterness, that bondage in Egypt. Eat it in haste. Somebody was supposed to bring the horseradish, which is what we usually have. They chose not to show up. But the Most High has our back. Because we have garlic, and garlic is a bitter herb. Passover I kept with. I only drinking about a half, just a small amount of wine. It was my first cup.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm going to reiterate, we did not just eat the Passover lamb. We just ate some lamb and bitter herbs to commemorate what our forefathers did. We're just rehearsing these things, because we're going to do this in the kingdom. The Messiah said he's going to eat the Passover with us. All right? And, you know, in this diaspora, the Most High's children are spread all in four corners, not just in the Western Hemisphere. And the Most High's children are spread all over, and they all look different. Okay, they don't just look one certain way. And we, you know, I think we should be thankful and that we're able to do this. We have money to buy wine. We can buy organic wine. We can buy grass-fed, free-range meat. You know, kosher raised meat. We don't eat meat with the blood in it. We get rid of the blood from the meat before we even cook it. All right, and we're able to do those things that the Most High told us to do. And as time goes by, the whole point that I'm bringing out is we shouldn't make excuses. We should do what we can to fulfill those laws. Because when we get in the kingdom, or you won't be in the kingdom if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. It's the rulership that the Messiah is going to bring back when he returns to this planet is going to be these laws. This is the king and high priest of Israel. He's going to establish these laws like every other high priest and king did. Like righteous King David. You know, Solomon, all the righteous high priests, not the wicked priests, but the righteous ones. So we can look forward to that. And if you don't like it now, you're not going to like it then. So you know, like now we have an opportunity to practice, because the Messiah, his sacrifice gave us what they call grace. He gave us, you know, we're not being judged for certain things right now. Otherwise, we'd all be worthy of death. So that sacrifice is we're able to come under his sacrifice, but he tells us to stop sinning. Let's get a couple scriptures real quick. Just to
use that grace. You know,
they take advantage.
Right.
They're like, we don't have to do this no more. We can just do whatever. And that's why you have all this confusion out there in the earth. You know, you got your homosexuality and all sorts of things. You know, they're not, right now people are just following man's law. Okay, they're not following the Most High's law. Let's get Hebrews 10:26. This is a common scripture that I like to bring out to remind everyone of this. After you get Hebrews 10:26, I want you to get Romans chapter 6, verse 1. Then on another lesson, we're gonna, you know, keep on doing some things and help people who struggle with the letters of Shaul. A lot of people struggle with Paul's writings, you know, but we're gonna continue to help people out with those. When you got it, read.
Hebrews chapter 10, verse 26. For if we sin willfully, after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins.
Okay? So, and we know that 1 John 3 and 4 says sin is the transgression of the law. So if we transgress the law willfully after we receive the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice of sin. What do we have coming if we do that? Read on.
But a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fiery indignation which shall devour the adversaries.
Okay? So that judgment has been suspended by the Messiah's sacrifice. We don't come under judgment because all men are worthy of death. We don't come under that judgment. So we are not to continue on in sin, which is the breaking of the Most High's laws. That's the only way that this grace can, that we can benefit from the grace. All right, now go over to Romans chapter 6. Romans chapter 6, verse 1.
What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin, that grace may abound?
Okay, so we know what sin is, and Paul is saying, shall we keep on sinning that grace may abound? Go ahead.
Yah forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein?
Okay, read on.
Know ye not that so many of us as were baptized into Yeshua Messiah were baptized into his death?
Go ahead.
Therefore we are buried with him by baptism into death, that like as Messiah was raised up from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life.
Okay, so we got to walk in newness of life. We can't continue on in sin because, we have grace or this mercy because of his sacrifice, because we lived a life of sin. But now you're buried with them in baptism. You go to what they call the watery grave. Yes, and we do teach water baptism. Okay, that's scriptural. So when you're baptized, you come up in newness of life. Now now you have to do what you were told to do. You get your instructions in here. That's what the word Torah means, instruction. No, you don't have to sacrifice animals. We're not in the kingdom right now, or what's known as ritual, ceremonial sacrifices. Because sacrificing an animal is just slaughtering an animal and cooking them and eating that animal. That's what a sacrifice is. But then there's ceremonial sacrifices that you sacrifice to the Most High. You go to the temple and you give a certain portion to the priests. You know, you bless them, they bless you. You sacrifice to the Most High. Or there's some where you offer a whole burnt offering where you don't eat any of it. It's a burnt offering and it just goes up. Okay? And so, no, we don't do those right now. We're not able to. You're not responsible for that law. There's several laws that you're not responsible for right now. But there's a whole lot that you are. You know, love your brother, don't lie, don't steal, don't murder, don't fornicate. You know, there's several things that you can keep. Keep the Sabbath, you know, commemorate the feast. There's Sabbaths on this today. Right now is a Sabbath. This is a Sabbath right now. All right. Back to Exodus 12. We're almost finished. Just got a couple more scriptures. Exodus chapter 12. And you know, just for these Seder meal or this Passover commemoration, it's always done by families at night because a lot of these events took place late at night. The children of Israel exited, the Exodus was done late at night. All right, we pretty much stayed up all night that night. Where did we leave off in Exodus 12?
I think you got about to start on 15.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, because we stopped it forever. So we all know that this is an ordinance forever. Now that means the Messiah did not do away with it. Okay, it's an ordinance forever. He said he's going to keep it in the kingdom. We've already proved that. All right, so we look forward to that. Okay, verse 15.
7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel.
Okay, so the Most High is not playing. Is he being real really ticky-tack like by saying, oh, don't have leavened bread in your house? Because many of us who are very carnally minded will say, I'm not doing that. That's leaven. What's he going to do? He said you're going to be cut off. But if we can realize what leaven represents, then you might want to do that. Because leaven represents sin. All right, he said get it out of your houses. Get the sin out of your houses. So we do these things, these physical things, by removing the leavening, so it can go into our minds and we can realize that we got to get sin out of our homes. You know, it helps us remember these things. So and most importantly, do it because he told you to do it. He said it, whoever doesn't do that will be cut off from Israel. All right, go ahead.
And in the first day there shall be an holy convocation, and in the seventh day there shall be an holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them.
Okay. So, he says, no manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat. That may be done of you. Okay, so we have to prepare food. Only on this high Sabbath we're allowed to deal with the food that way. Okay, other Sabbaths don't cook. But notice how he says, no manner of work. So we're not to work today. And he said is a holy convocation. A convocation is a gathering. It's a holy gathering. It's a sacred day and we're supposed to gather. Some people, and then many people call themselves Israelites and Jews, really need to take heed to this, because you're supposed to have a convocation and gather on these days. That's a command. And he's not playing. He didn't say stay to yourself, do your own thing. And sometimes you'll realize those who stay to themselves are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And so that's why they hide. That's why Adam and Eve hid when they sinned. That's why you hide. You stay to yourself. All right, read on.
Verse 17. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. From this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever.
There he goes again. Tells you forever. All right, read on.
In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do with all our meals. And during these 7 days, we don't eat regular bread with leavening. We eat unleavened bread with our meals, because the Most High told us to do that. And we should be thanking every time we eat, you know, because you thank the Father for the food. But then when you eat, you're realizing I'm getting sin out of my life, out of my home. That's why we're told to do that. Go ahead.
7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land.
Okay, so he tells you twice. All right, that's so that you can see the congregation of Israel consisted of Israelites and Gentiles. Okay, just like Paul taught in the book of Ephesians. He told them, you know, you guys can come in and be part of this congregation. And when he talked about that wall of separation being torn down, no, the Gentiles are welcome to this. The Gentiles are welcome to the table of the Most High. Okay? Go ahead.
7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether it be a stranger or born in the land. Ye shall eat nothing leavened in all your habitations, shall ye eat unleavened bread. Then Moshe called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, Draw out and take you a lamb according to your families, and kill the Passover. And he shall take a bunch of hyssop, and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go to the door of his house until the morning. For Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the 2 side posts, Yahweh will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come into you in your house to smite you.
Read on.
And ye shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever.
And notice how he keeps telling us forever. He keeps on doing this. I think he might have foreseen all the madness that's going on in the earth today and said, look, I'm going to keep on telling them this so they can get it through their heads. Alright, go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, when ye be come to the land which Yahweh will give you, according as he hath promised, that ye shall keep his service. And it shall come to pass, when ye children shall say unto you, what mean ye by this service?
Okay, notice how it says when you come into the land that he's given you, you shall keep this service also. They kept it in the wilderness, but he said when you get into the land that I promise you, you're going to keep the service. Go ahead.
Verse 27. That ye shall say, it is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people bowed the head and worshiped.
This is what we're supposed to teach our children. Okay? It doesn't say, I can't find Sunday school in here anywhere, but I can find instructions like this and some other ones. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel went away and did as Yahweh had commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass that at midnight Yahweh smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead.
Notice how Pharaoh rose up at night. He said it was midnight. It was late at night when these things took place. Read.
And he called for Moshe and Aaron by night, and said, rise up, and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go.
Okay, he told us to get out late at night. Go ahead.
Serve Yahweh as ye have said. Also take your flocks and your herds, as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people, that they might send them out of the land in haste.
Notice how he said, get out of here. Get out of here, but bless me also. Go ahead.
For they said, we be all dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders.
Okay, so he's even showing you why we unleavened bread. It's telling you the history. They took the dough before it was leavened. They didn't have time to knead it. That's how it was done. A lot of people think they added yeast to the dough, but there's another scripture where it talks about kneading the dough until it becomes leavened. There's natural leavening in the air, and we didn't add yeast. They kneaded the dough. All right, go ahead.
And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moshe, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required. And they spoiled the Egyptians.
All right, so when they spoiled the Egyptians, they gave them all kinds of things. They said they borrowed from them jewels and gold and whatnot. Usually during this part, I like to because we don't exchange gifts during the 25th of December and stuff like that. This is a great time. Like when we go through here, I like giving gifts and presents right around this time, and that's something that people can do. Go ahead.
Verse 37. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men beside children.
Okay.
And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, even very much cattle.
Okay, that word mixed multitude, when you look it up in the Hebrew, it means, mongrel means mixed. Different people. You had Egyptians and Cushites, Ethiopians and whatnot. Other nations that left out of Egypt with the children of Israel, meaning that they wanted to take heed as well. And you can safely assume that they also put the
Right, exactly.
the blood on the doorposts and everything. Go ahead.
And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt, and could not tarry, neither had they prepared for themselves any victual.
Right, so they had to leave fast. It was late at night. Remember, this was after midnight. Go ahead.
Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day it came to pass, that all the hosts of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh for bringing them out of the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations.
That's right. So we hold fast to that, all the generations. And those generations came down to us in these last days. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. there shall no stranger eat thereof.
Okay, this is the ordinance of the Passover. He tells you how to keep it. Go ahead.
But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall ye eat thereof.
Okay, now when we bought servants, this isn't chattel slavery. This isn't what the Gentiles did to many of our forefathers in this country. This is not that type of slavery. They did some wicked stuff to us. When we had servants, we treated them like family. You know, we didn't treat them bad. We even circumcised them. They came into our household. They were part of the family. Go ahead.
A foreigner and hired servant shall not eat thereof. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall you break a bone thereof. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and shall be as one that is born in the land.
Okay, so he tells you, if a stranger, a non-Israelite, a Gentile, if he wants to keep the Passover, let him, not just him, but all his males, all his family members in his household that he's over, his sons and whatnot, they got to get circumcised too. And that's another lesson in itself with circumcision and what Paul was talking about as opposed to the law. That's a totally different topic that many people get confused on. But he tells you, if you want, if the stranger wants to keep the Passover, let him be circumcised. Let him come under the covenant. And now this Passover means something to him as well. All right, go ahead.
One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and to the stranger that sojourneth among you.
That's right, one law. Go ahead.
Thus did all the children of Israel, as Yahweh commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass the selfsame day that Yahweh did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies.
All right, so in the same day, right now, this night, that's when he brought us out. And that's why we continue to commemorate that. My last scripture, real quick. Go to Jeremiah, Yeremiah, chapter 16. Yeremiah chapter 16 and verse 4.
They shall die of grievous death.
No, my bad. Verse 14.
Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers.
Okay, so he said, no more are they going to... We're not going to talk about that anymore. There's going to be a gathering that's greater than what took place in Egypt. Because he said in verse 15, he's going to bring us, his people, from the land of the north and from all the lands where he had driven them. And bring them again into their land, which is Israel. All those who are Israelites, all those who have come under the covenant, will be gathered into Israel, into the land of Israel. And I can assume that we'll be celebrating that gathering in the kingdom. All right, so that's what we have to look forward to. We have this, and we have the Passover celebration with the Messiah to look forward to in the kingdom. All right, and that's all we have for that. Did you have anything there?
No.
Okay. All right. May Yahweh bless your understanding. Shalom. We got that Elder Shabar, Feast of Unleavened Bread, feasting on some clean food. We keep it clean over here. You know, I'm enjoying mine right there. I'm getting ready to dig off into that right there. Big plate of food. You know, kosher. You know, no blood, no hormones, all free range. You know, no antibiotics. That's how we do it. You know, children over there, they grubbing, you know. Yeah, it's neat. It's neat. Yeah. This is a blessing, you know. I got my family, and I got my mother and my stepfather here at the Passover. This is their first Feast of Unleavened Bread. And a lot of people can't, you know, they're not able to have their immediate family with them. How many people can have their mother and their father with them at the feast? You know, not too many people have that. So it's a blessing that the Most High is continuing to wake up his people and to have them come and observe the Feast of Unleavened Bread and learn about the Most High's ways. So that's a blessing. Look at all that food, man. Look at all that food. That's all kinds of food. And like I said, a lot of people didn't make it. They had food they were gonna bring. Look at all that food, man. See, that's how the Most High has blessed us. You know, we'll never hunger. We won't hunger spiritually or physically. He's always gonna take care of us. You know, but what's most important is that spiritual food. And we eating clean food. Look at that, that's a pot of beans right there. They devour those beans. You know, we eat food, we hit the gym, and we making all kinds of gains. Got some natural fruit punch. Some wine right there. Scriptures. There's Shabar again, rubbing. We got the dog right there. He's trying to get involved.